Good evening. You're watching the news on Croatian television. The recently released segments of the UN Arbitration Tribunal's verdict in the Ina Mol case have cast a shadow of doubt over the Zagreb County Court's guilty verdict against former Prime Minister Ivo Sanader for corruption. The verdict has also raised the question about the future of the Ina Oil and Gas Company. In an interview for Croatian television, Prime Minister Andrej Plenković said that government was actively working on reacquiring a controlling interest in Ina.
The request for a proposal has been completed. This entails a proposal to find advisors who will help us establish the estimated value of the company. This means that, as is usually the case in these kinds of situations, relevant international advisors will help Croatia with regard to buying out MOL's stake in INA or possibly in finding a new strategic partner, as decided by the Advisory Council and the government. So that job has now been completed.
At a UN conference on climate change in Bonn, Germany, participants are trying to find ways of stopping projected global warming. Proponents of the climate change theory estimate that Croatia will have to spend around €70 million per year on combating climate change. They argue, however, that this is still less than the €80 million in damages they say climate change causes. They also say that all of the money can be drawn from the EU. Croatia is expected to present a draft of its energy strategy in Brussels at the beginning of 2018. According to some computer models, average global temperatures could rise by 1.5 to 2.2 degrees Celsius over the next 50 years. There is also concern regarding more frequent droughts and flooding.
If we have more frequent periods of drought and yet roughly the same amount of rain falling per year, this means that the precipitation is falling in large quantities at once, which means that we can expect to have more and more flooding.
The 40th Interliber Book Fair closed at the Zagreb Fairgrounds this evening. More than 300 exhibitors from 16 countries presented their books at this year's fair. Among the 200 accompanying programs was one dealing with novelties in the education sector, including a classroom for the 21st century, multimedia textbooks, and a picture book about the Croatian national anthem.
This is a story about the text of the Croatian anthem. Our goal was to give children a better understanding of the meaning of their national anthem through very imaginative illustrations, replete with national symbols and other elements of our Croatian heritage. The unique thing about this picture book is that the national anthem has been translated to 5 additional languages: English, French, German, Spanish, and Italian.
The 15th Zagreb Film Festival opened in Zagreb's Kino Europa last night with the screening of The Divine Order. Directed by Petra Volpe, the film tells the story of a young housewife's efforts to organize women in her town to petition for their right to vote in 1971 Switzerland. More than 100 films from all over the world will be screened at this year's festival, which ends next Sunday. Many of this year's submissions deal with contentious social issues.
We're dealing with issues such as abortion, the LGBT community, migrants, and so on. However, I have to say that the filmmakers dealing with these at first glance difficult topics have managed to present them in a relatively jovial way.
In light of World Kindness Day tomorrow, the Hopi Pola Association was in downtown Zagreb today, where they did their best to raise the spirits of their fellow citizens, handing out flowers, balloons, hugs, and positive messages.
If we were all kind to each other and if we did a good deed for someone else every day, the world would be a much simpler place. My generation, older people, we are very, very disappointed with the behavior of today's youth.
Taking a quick look at sports, the first slalom of the new ski season was held in Levi, Finland this afternoon. Germany's Felix Neureuter was first, followed by Henrik Kristoffersson of Norway and Swede Matthias Hargen. Of Croatia's 3 competitors, Matej Vidovic and Filip Zubcic failed to qualify for the second run, while Istok Rodeš did not finish the first run. In basketball, the Croatian women's team lost to Sweden 57-54 in its first qualification game for the 2019 European Championships last night. Croatia plays Italy next on Wednesday.
I'm truly sorry that we lost. We played a hard-fought game, and we were in contention throughout the entire game. It would have been super to have won at home.
In Champions League handball, PPD Zagreb lost to reigning European champions Macedonian side Vardar 29-23 last night. After 7 rounds of play, Zagreb is second last in Group A with 2 points. Vardar is first with 13. Zagreb's next game is against Nantes in France next Sunday. And now the forecast for tomorrow. Overcast with intermittent rain. The coast and coastal areas could see some heavier downpours. Precipitation in Gorski Kotar and Lika will turn to snow. The coast will see moderate to strong southeasterly and southerly winds, with gale-force gusts in some places. Winds will shift to a northeasterly on the northern Adriatic in the evening and gain in strength, reaching hurricane-force gusts. Morning lows of 2 to 5 degrees Celsius inland, 11 to 16 on the coast, will give way to highs of up to 6 degrees in the interior, 13 to 18 on the Adriatic. The 3-day forecast for the interior calls for predominantly overcast and cold weather with rain and snow. It will be windy on the coast with a strong to gale-force northeasterly reaching hurricane-force gusts. There will be some rain on Tuesday and Wednesday, although less than on Monday. And that wraps up the news. Be sure to join us again tomorrow night.